Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King. And today I'm going to be giving you part 21 of a What If Naruto was born in the Uzumaki clan. Remember to get this one to 200 likes as usual, share this to all of your friends in your social media platform, and also go ahead and check out the brand new episode of What If Naruto Pushed Himself to the Limit over on Anime King 2 and enjoy that guys. And also later on I'm going to be posting a new episode of What If Naruto was raised by the Hyuga clan. So stay tuned for that and I hope you guys enjoy. And remember, if you're new and this is the first time you hear my voice and you enjoy the videos on both Anime King and Anime King 2, go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become a part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and your support. Remember to comment down below and tell me if you're new. I'll be planning talking back to all of you. So yeah, without further ado, what is to begin this new episode? Start the intro. So the last time we left off, Snazzy couldn't believe it. She was giving this boy a proposition and he was cutting her down each time, after she healed him. But Naruto simply told her that the only reason why she is coming up with this proposition is because they have nothing left to turn to. And that was right. Yes, mostly. As Naruto told her that he will be crushing Konoha, and he will spare her and her family, and some of the loved ones that she cared about. And also he will be taking Obito and his mother, seeing that his father told him to protect them, and she will only control half of the Fire Nation while he will control the rest. As Snazzy was pissed off at that. And then he said something else that made her even more angry. She must marry one of his close friends so that he could keep it in the bloodline, and the child would be able to rule on in the future. As she was angry about that because she was already with Dan, and she would take anything over being with him. She would even give up the complete Fire Nation because she loved Dan that much. As Naruto asked her what is her choice. Some time passed after that as the both of them were watching Snazzy going back, as they had a squad to rescue Kushina to make sure that she get out of that hellhole. As Konan confessed to Naruto that she loved him, but he said something that hurt her a bit, but she understand. Lying there in that bed, grieving for his mother and everything that happened, he wanted to see Akainu, realized that he loved her, despite everything, as he also had feelings for Konan as well. And he didn't know what to do about them. It was hard. But right now, for their safety and the future, he has to cut all those feelings down, as he will make sure he achieves everything by sealing away his emotions tightly. Yes, he will do that. Nagato was also taking the charge, as he started to move towards Konoha as he united all of the smaller nations, as Naruto was splitting up the group as he arrived at Kumo, as Arima and the others were happy to see him. Daibatsu, Yaiko, they were happy, as Arima lost his son Shin in the war, and he asked Naruto if he could bring back his daughter and give her all that she needed, as he wanted her to know who was her father in case. He wanted to see his daughter and talk to her. As Naruto knew that Akainu was his daughter, he was angry at first, but he realized why the man did that. As Naruto removed the law of being a bastard, as none of them could oppose him on that, none of the older elders, as Naruto combined the entire north so they wouldn't fight against each other. As everyone was surprised, the union was getting larger and larger. They were going to wage war on Konoha and the Hidden Stone, and they were going to crush Kiri, as the people call him the King of the North. Meanwhile at Konoha, as the entire group was ready, with Obito leading the charge with his Mangekyo Sharingan, Mikoto was there as well, Dan, and Snazzy, Itachi, Shisui. All of them are ready, as they were going to rescue Kushina. So yeah guys, so it's basically as we left off. You guys can switch across the place and check it out for yourself. So, what do you say we begin this new episode? Naruto sit on the deck of his flagship staring out into the vast sea. He had a crown on his head. He had never imagined for anything like this. It was made of a unique crystal, a substance from Kumo. It had an insignia for the wolf in the center, as he was now the king of the north, and they saw him that way. But oddly, he found it comforting though, as he had inherited the title of king, as he was showing himself as king by helping Arima, as they were sending men and supplies, everything over towards the winning the war, and they were going to bring the land of water into the union, and if they refuse, they will crush them. But the Mizukage had to fall. But yet that was not his problem. He was thinking about the future that he could have with the two women that terrified him. Arima had already proposed the hand of his own living daughter to him. Unknown to Arima, Akeno already loved Naruto and expressed her feelings clearly already. As a Uzumaki, it was his duty to marry one of his clan, and Arima has served him loyally. If he didn't marry her, it would be a great insult and create several discontent amongst the clans. And it was not like he wasn't in love with her as well. All that time spent there, he was thinking about her, for her being there and always comforting him. But on the other hand, he also had feelings for Konoha, who returned them as well. She was one of the most loved heroes of the Hidden Rain, and she was like Hanzo's daughter. Rejecting her would not only break her heart, but it will kind of bend the trust that the two alliance had between him and Hanzo. This mess was his own doing by falling in love with two women at the same time. Yeah, he was truly screwed. His parents or Nagato weren't here when he needed their counsel the most. He didn't really take into smoking to comfort, but right now, he needed a cigarette. After taking long puffs, he flicked the thing into the water. He was the king of the north. He couldn't have these things on his head right now. He had to push through them for now and deal with the problem ahead. But thinking about this, he already banned the custom of people calling people bastards. What example would be made of this by taking two wives? Maybe he had to let them both go and marry someone neutral, sire children that could inherit his responsibility when he died. He knew he could never love a woman like he loved those two, but it would set a balance and a neutrality between the north. But it would kill him to not be with either of them. As Konoha was on another ship, he doubted that he could control himself if the both of them were near each other, as he saw her on the deck of the ship as well, looking out. He couldn't go on his raw emotions. Meanwhile, at Konoha, explosion went off, destroying the peaceful scent in the air and sending the village into panic. Dozens of ninja squads made up of Anvu and Jonins were sent out in response, the result of which left the Hokage Tower barely guarded. Obito watched as destruction rocked his beloved village. It pained him to do this, but it had to be done to allow Kushina to be rescued by Tsunade and her group. Most of the shinobi had gone to war, so there was less behind now. If only they knew it was their own turn against them. But yet, as the village suffered, Obito saw that the Hokage's tower was surrounded by dozens of Anfu with faceless masks. He had heard about the group that only answered to Danzo, Root. Most thought that they were myth, but they were there, as they silently guarded their master who watched the entire village, the impassive look on his face from the Hokage's tower. Yet the fury in Danzo's eyes drove Obito home mad. Danzo was. He could only hope that Itachi, Shisui, and Dan retreated soon after their objective was complete. He unleashed his blade as he rushed towards his destination, knowing that he will be known as a traitor of Konoha, second after Madara, another Uchiha to betray the village. But he was trying to save it from this madman, as he activated his eyes fully and blurred away. The first Anvu tried to turn, but he wasn't fast enough as his head was sliced off. 3 Anvus jumped around him, their swords trying to stab him from 3 sides, but the blades passed right through Obito's body before stabbing themselves. The Anvus could only stare in shock as they killed each other instead of killing Obito. When the bodies fell, he saw the remaining Anvus stand as a wall to protect Danzo. Like father, like son, Danzo said. Are those your last words? Obito said calmly, as the Anvus raised their blades. I see that you have awakened the Mangetsu. Once I put you down, those eyes will be mine, and I will use them to slay our enemies, Danzo said. Your lust for power shall bring us all to ruin, said Obito. Danzo Anvus moved off as one, but Obito Mangekyou swirled, releasing a giant vortex that surrounded them, as they were sucked away, never to be seen again. Obito collapsed on one knee, as he could feel the drain of his chakra. He had practiced with his eyes for a few times, but it always put a great damage of stress on his body. Yet he stood back up. Such a child, Danzo said in disappointment. Danzo pulled twin long swords from his back as he gazed at Obito. As Danzo was dangerous despite his age. But Obito's eyes gave him the power enough to come back someone like Danzo, but he became weaker the more he used them. As Obito knew there would be no mercy for him if he was defeated. They would all burn and he would die a horrible death. He cannot lose. As Danzo moved in with incredible speed, but his blades passed right through Obito as Obito slipped and tried to stab Danzo in the back, but Danzo blocked his blades. He's fast, thought Obito, as he had to jump away as Danzo sliced him right near the ribs. So you're not untouchable, Danzo said. Obito dashed forward and launched a strike towards his throat, but Danzo blocked it with a gauntlet on his arm. He knocked Obito the hilt of his sword, knocking him away, as he dashed forward to end Obito's life. But Obito was pulled away by two arms. As he glanced back to see, "You guys," he said. It was Shisui and Itachi. "We don't abandon our comrades," said Shisui. As Itachi nodded and pulled his own blade, there was a grunt from Danzo as Dan was pushed out of his body. Dan Kato, an illegitimate child of the Yamanaka whore who opened her legs to your father. Your soul transfer jutsu is nothing but a bastardized version of which one I can counter. And I see you brought more traders. I'm not even surprised that they're Uchihas. Rest assured, all of you shall die. Every single last one once I'm done with you people here. You talk too much," said Itachi, as Danzo frowned as four of them surrounded him. None of them could really use any jutsus right here, because the loyalist forces who had went off to check out the explosions would return. Danzo couldn't use his either because Obito had made them useless with his eyes. It was going to be a battle of swords. Let's end this madness. As Itachi was the first one to dash in with his blade that was blocked by Danzo and pushed away. Shisui's sword was parried as well, followed by a slash that sent him crashing away as Danzo flipped and kicked Itachi away as Obito and Dan moved in. Obito tried to engulf him in that swirling vortex, but Danzo flipped over it. Dan, quick thinking, allowed him to stop Danzo from stabbing Obito in the back, but that left him rather exposed as he was protecting Obito. But Danzo flicked his other blade and stabbed Dan right through the heart. Shisui cried out as Dan collapsed down on the ground as Itachi jumped towards Danzo's back. Obito could only watch in horror as Danzo stabbed Itachi as well, but Itachi exploded. Danzo was sent crashing away, his body having numerous cuts on it and a hole in his thigh that was bleeding. He glared furious at the real Itachi who appeared in a form of crows. As Danzo saw the look in Itachi's eyes, despite one of them falling, Obito may have the Sharingan, Shisui may be the better swordsman, but Itachi, he was a true ninja, he was still focused no matter what. As he surrounded Danzo in a flock of crows. "With me," said Itachi, as his two comrades jumped back in the fight. Obito opened the vortex and a dozen fireballs rushed out from it, going towards Danzo. That explosive clone of Itachi already alerted the sensors in the village. They had to finish Danzo soon. As Danzo surrounded himself in an earth dome that protected him from the fireballs. Crack. A punch tear right through the earth dome, smashing into his face. As Danzo was sent sailing as he spat out tooth and blood. As he looked up to see the murderous gaze of Shisui Uchiha with his Mangita Sharingan now activated. "How?" said Danzo, surprised. "Because of the war you started that took my father and sent my clan into madness." Danzo felt alarmed now because there were two Mangita users against him. Itachi placed his finger on the ground and closed his eyes for a moment, before turning and looking back. "They're closing in, I'll stop them." "Be careful," said Shisui. "If it gets too hot, run," Obito said. As Itachi sighed, "Sometime leaf must fall to protect the great tree," he said, before bursting into crows. As Obito's lip quivered on hearing those words, he knew what they truly meant as he looked at Shisui, and he had the same look in his eyes. "Our forefathers founded this village. Today, the Uchihas and the Senjos, we all shall fight together." As he pointed his sword at Danzo, as Obito looked over towards the monument. As he then turned back to Danzo, "For Hiruzen," he said, as the two boys' body became engulfed. As blue chakra circulated around it, Danzo saw the look in their eyes. "Even in death, you still haunt me, old friend." As Danzo was not feeling hatred towards these two boys, because even with their fighting and all that, they were still loyal to Konoha. They were Hiruzen legacies. But it was a shame he had to put them down, because emotion were Ninja's greatest weaknesses. Biting his thumb, he performed hand signs before slamming on the ground, as they were pushed away as a massive poof. When the smoke cleared, there was a massive elephant standing there, the large trunk that stood tall. On top of it was Danzo. Kill them, he said. The beast raised his paw, and Obito launched forward as Shisui jumped towards as well. But before the thing could crush him, Shisui vanished. The thing then cried out in pain as explosive notes blew up at its feet. That speed, how can he do something so fast, thought Obito. The thing then started to suck, as it started to break apart the walls, everything, and it was sucking in Obito. Obito unleashed the root Anvus that he had absorbed with his Mangekyou and sent them straight towards the beast's eyes. The Anvus were dead before they could even blink, but they did critical damage to the beast's eye, making it scream in agony. On top of the beast, Shisui was already engaged in a deadly duel with Danzo, as Obito used his Mangekyou one more time and focused right on the beast's head. Danzo, watching horror as his summoned head was ripped apart and sucked into Obito's vortex, as the body lost balance, as him and Shisui had to jump away. Shisui then flashed towards Danzo in mid-air. Danzo was surprised as he blocked the first strike, but the boy then moved with incredible speed, surprising him. He was able to defend. He would have been sliced in half, but he brought up his left arm. Danzo grunted in pain as Shisui sliced off his arm, but he kicked Shisui right in the stomach, knocking him away. His dead summon vanished. As Danzo landed, panting, the two Uchiha boys panting as well. There was sounds of battling going on in the distance, as Itachi was holding off Danzo's aides. Danzo sealed off his wound by applying chakra as he stood back up fighting. He was about to move when he coughed blood, as he realized the blood was not normal blood. As he looked at the blade in Shisui's hand, poison. Ninjas have no honor, Danzo, said Shisui coolly. As Danzo snarled as his vision was getting blurry, Obito dashed forward as he sliced at him to cut him down, but the sword simply passed right through him, as Obito flashed behind him. As Shisui then flashed in front of Danzo, the both of them drive their blade forward, stabbing Danzo. Danzo coughed up blood as they pulled their swords. This moment reminded him of when he did the same thing to Hiruzen. Was this how his friend had felt to be betrayed by his own man and comrades? Was it so painful? Where did I go wrong, Hiruzen, he thought. Shisui stepped forward, his Mangekyou eyes devoid of any mercy. In the name of Hiruzen Sarutobi and the Fire Daimyo, I, Shisui Uchiha, sentence you to death. Do you have any last words, Shisui asked. Danzo grinned. You're a fool. As Danzo grabbed his sword and sent it straight towards Shisui's heart. But Danzo cried out in pain as Obito sliced off his arm. This time Shisui didn't offer him any courtesy, as he sliced his blade, tearing through Danzo's neck. As the head rolled off, Obito collapsed to his knees. We did it. Shisui looked at the dead body of Danzo and regretted that he had to come to this. But it had to be done. No, they had to run. Obito, let's regroup with Tsunade and her group. Maybe we can get Itachi too. That's not gonna happen, Shisui. Both boys turned as they saw wounded Itachi staggered into the destroyed stone yard. He was bleeding from his left arm and there was a slash on his cheek. His Sharingan was off and he was cut up everywhere all over his body. He had been through hell. Shisui didn't understand what Itachi meant as they saw dozens of ninjas, Anvus, Jonins, Genins, all of them hopping from building to building coming towards them. And leading them was a man that made their heart stop. How? We have no chance, said Shisui, as they were tired. Their Mangekyou was out. Obito picked up his self as he looked into his friend's eyes. They did what they came here to do, and with all of the village forces coming here, that would give Tsunade enough time to rescue Kushina. At least, she would be safe. And Naruto would not kill everyone at least. Konoha will die, but the people would live on. As he picked up his sword, he has done his duty. The only regret he had was not meeting his elder brother and not living his life with Ren. Are you with me? He asked. The both of them raised their blades to the end, they said, as he saw the anger in the eyes of their Konoha shinobis coming towards them to make them pay for their crime. But the three boys stood there unwavering as they walked right into the hellstorm that was coming, knowing that they will die. Time skip. The King of the North. The King of the North. The King of the North. Akino ran, and she had an overjoyed look on her face as she ran through the Union. She saw Nagato as he received the letter Their friend was alive. Yes, he lived, and he had joined the powerful nations together and became the king of the north. As Akaino felt her heart, it felt like it wasn't broken anymore. She didn't care that he was a king or anything, she was just happy that he was alive. Akaino smiled, Nagato smiled as well. Despite his soldiers being loyal to him now, they were only ever truly loyal to Naruto Uzumaki. Because the Zetsus, there were 20,000 of them. It was only because of Naruto's last wish that they followed Nagato. But Naruto was their true leader. As most people would have expected someone is the throne when their soldiers cheer for another leader, but Nagato was smiling because Naruto was his leader as well. His friend. He was alive. The past week has been good for them. At night, the Zetsus, they would infiltrate the armies, kill important enemy commanders, and burn the supplies, and cause havoc. So far the Union has lost less than 400 soldiers, while the enemies has lost up to 8,000. But yesterday was the first setback, when the Zetsus tried to stage their Kazekami attack at night, but they were discovered and killed immediately. Word was that Jiraiya, the Gallant, had taken control of the forces and they were now marching straight towards Nagato forces. Meanwhile, Hanzo was being pushed back by the Tishikage and his forces, despite the Sand forces joining his side. At this rate, the Union forces who were already weakened would be caught right in the center of two armies. So far, the Sand and the Kazekage, they all kept their words by fighting alongside them. But this news had lifted their force that Naruto was back. And also, he had sent a fighting force to help Daibatsu, as Daibatsu was commanding that army as they were taking on Onihi and his forces to help Hanzo. But something was wrong, Akainu could tell, as she told Nagato to follow her. Something was wrong. Despite knowing him this long, she could tell. Yes, something was off. When they arrived to her room, she placed silencing seals up. But she hugged him first. As he hugged her back, "He's too stubborn to die," said Nagato in a whisper. "I'm glad he's alive," said Akainu. "Don't worry, all folks will be together soon," said Akainu. "How long?" she asked. 3 weeks, he said. "I'm doing the best I can to stall them, but Jiraiya is surprisingly fast and alarming. He understands that we cannot face his forces in open battle. Our soldiers, despite being loyal, they are no match for dangerous clans like the Uchihas, the Hyugas, and the Naras. But that is not what worried me most," he said, as she heard the fear in his voice. He pointed to the flag of the Sand Village that stood side by side with the rain. Those two forces were holding Nagato's rear against the Tishikage 20,000 army. But the rain was much smaller than the Sand, their soldiers. "Do you think the Sand will betray us?" asked Akainu. "I don't know, Akainu. The Kazekage seemed like a man of his word, but his village has a history of betrayal, as bad as scary. In fact, none of the great villages ever shown honor or decency. They may see benefit with the Union for now, but if things turn the slightest, they will betray us." "But they hate the stone and Konoha. Why would they do such a thing?" she asked, not understanding. "Today's enemies can be tomorrow's allies," he whispered. "What do you know?" she asked. "Nothing for certain for now. I have some of my Zetsus acting as spies in the Sand army. Most of the Sand ninjas are fighting loyally under the Kazekage command for the Union, but there are several who hate this, feel like their great village should not make any pact with weaker ones, like the inner rain Taki, the grass, or Uzu. It is still out there, that denial in their heart." It was then that Akainu realized why he looked so stressed and disappointed, even though they got good news. As how could he expect to win a war if he couldn't even trust his own man? And Nagato was also angry she saw that. "You don't want him to go to Kiri," she said. "I know that we need the people of the water forces, but right now we're surrounded, and I need my best friend." "And where is he?" said Nagato as he clenched his fists. She wanted to tell him that he was wrong and to not to argue with Naruto, but after getting the information that he just gave her, she could not deny the fact. Nagato was a good leader who brought them together, but he was no battle commander. Against someone like Jiraiya, or some dangerous Konoha shinobi, it was difficult. "I'll do what I can," he said, snapping her from her thinking. "For how long I can." "I understand," she whispered. "Akainu," he said, "if we're defeated, I'm not going to run. The Union is my dream too, and I will not run away from it. But know this, if I fall, so shall this army and the Union. And no matter how good of a commander Naruto is, he won't be able to win if we don't stop this." As Nagato left the room, as her hands were shaking, They were staring at a complete defeat if Naruto didn't come here with the soldiers of the north. "Where are you, Naruto?" she said. On the ships. Konoha was quite surprised and she has received a summon to come to his cabins. Things have been quite awkward with them for the past few days since what happened. But she loved how he conducted himself as a true king, as a leader, as he was interacting with everyone freely, and they were starting to develop a liking towards him. He was kind and generous, but he was firm in his command. Exactly what they needed right now. And the man of Kumo and woman had seen that. It gave them peace, because their family was treated well, other than being slaves or something like that. She didn't know about the fate of this world after this war, but she knew that if Naruto became victorious, the world, everything will finally be at peace. Because with him at the front, anything is possible. As she was now standing right there, as she was listening to what he said, "I cannot live without either of you. Akainu is a part of me, and you understand me better than anyone. I have tried so hard to make a choice, but I cannot," he said. "I see," she said. "This is why I came up with this conclusion. I would either marry the both of you, or make Terumi to form an unbreakable alliance with the land of water. If I cannot have love, then at the very least I will have my duty," he said. Her heart ached, knowing that he would do everything just to make sure there would be peace, despite giving up his love and everything. "What if one of us accepts and the other refuses?" asked Konan. "Then I shall marry neither. I love the both of you, and I shall not torment one of you." "How will you even pull this off? The daimyos have a tradition of multiple wives and consuls," but he stopped her. "You shall both be my wife if you agree neutrally. You will be my queen and rule by my side because you're better at politics than me or Kano. As for her, I shall bestow upon her Uzu, and if we have any children, then they shall rule that part as under the north and authority of the crown. And if we have any children, they shall be the heir to my throne. Lord Arima will be pleased if I give his daughter a leadership of Uzu. Knowing her and my children will be future lords and ladies amongst my ancestral home. And Hanzo will be more than happy to form an unbreakable alliance in the north, knowing that his foster daughter, my queen, and our children is the future ruler of the north." As he nervously stared at her, wondering if he had made a mistake as he finished. He knew that he was bad at things like this, but it was all that he could offer Akainu and Konan. They will have his love and companionship, and their children will live peaceful lives. If all things went well, their names will be forever remembered in the north. Yet he didn't know if it would be enough for them to share his love. But if they refuse, his course will be clear. He will live his days as a just and good king. But his life will never be happy because his heart will be broken. The north will prosper, but he would wither away slowly by day. Maybe deep down he deserved all of that for all the blood he had shed. "Can you give me some time?" she said, snapping from his thoughts. As he released a sigh of relief inside his heart, at least she did not outright ignore or refuse his proposal. "Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere," he said, with a small smile, making her smile as well. "You're getting better at this," she said, at what he asked. "Living a life. When I first met you, you barely react to people, apart from your own clansmen and your friends. But no, things have changed. It seems like your heart has grew." "It is only because of you," said Naruto. "You changed me in a lot of ways." Her heart fluttered hearing him say that, as she felt a warmth went through her chest, as she couldn't help herself as she moved forward and pressed her lips against his. He couldn't help himself either as he kissed her back passionately and gently. As he was looking at her as he kissed her passionately as she breathed the kiss, she saw a look in his eyes. I love you," he said. She couldn't help the lone tear that fall from her eyes as he said that, as she attacked him furiously and kissed him over and over. As the both of them couldn't help it, as their kissing lead them straight towards the bed. After some time, the both of them collapsed on the bed. As the both of them were panting a bit, she more than him though. "What are we to do now?" "What do you mean?" she asked. "I mean, I'm not sure I can ever let you leave this bed," he said to her. "Well, we have a few more hours before we reach Kiri borders." "That," he said, "is why I love you." As she smiled, he then looked at her. "Does this mean that you will marry me?" he asked. "I guess I can dedicate my life for a fool as you," she said, with a smirk. "And I love you too," she said, as she kissed him back. Naruto did not know what the future held or if he could win this war, but at this moment he was at total, unending bliss. As he remembered a dream that he had, as he was in a field with two kids running around, one of them with blue, long hair, and the other one with silver hair. As a dream can become a reality, he thought to himself. Time skip, Danzo is dead. There wasn't much motion going on. That showed how much the people didn't really accepted him as their leader. The only reason why he took the stance was because of the Fire Daimyo and his backing. Jiraiya explained the circumstances, and that did surprise him though. Most importantly, Fukaku went pale, realizing that it was 3 boys from his clan that did the deed. What happened to the traitor, said Shibe, Abermi calmly. The report said that they made their last stance against Danzo. Loyalists to the death, Jiraiya said sadly. How could Obita do such a thing? First, Minato went against Konoha interests and now his own son as well. The fact that Shizu and Itachi joined him was a matter of great concern. Was the village so divided? But you believe that is not the case, do you, Jiraiya? Asked Nara, staring at him. Perhaps, said Jiraiya, not saying anything else. Our Jinchuriki lost, and Tsunade proved herself to be a bigger traitor than we thought. Who will be the 5th Hokage? Asked Inoichi. He has already been appointed by the Fire Daimyo, Inoichi, said Jiraiya, as he was not sure how to feel about the situation. Who? Asked Fukaku. Nor that his own clansman had come with treason. It was a matter he needed to know who was going to be the next Hokage. If it was Jiraiya, pardon was possible. Orochimaru, Jiraiya said, as everyone visibly pale. Yes, despite his life-threatening wounds, Orochimaru did not die that day. He got severely burned. As it was Danzo's loyalists who spoke to the daimyo, and Orochimaru was given the title of Hokage. As the daimyo was hesitant at first, but he was desperate to get this war over with and win. The clan's heads erupted in an uproar. They will not accept Orochimaru as their new leader, including Fukaku. Not one of them was in favor of that. Until Hayashi spoke. It should be you, Lord Jiraiya, said Hayashi. As everyone started to nod and accept the situation as he looked towards him. Jiraiya eyes wide, never in his life that he wanted so much power, much less being a Hokage. He was a loyal ninja who loved his village despite the mistakes and darkness. And Orochimaru is his friend. He might not be the ideal leader, but he was loyal to Konoha. We should march back to Konoha and dethrone him. It should be you, Lord Jiraiya, said Choza. Jiraiya glared at him furiously. You will have me stage another coup when our previous Hokage is barely in his grave. But, said Fukaku, but he was cut off as Jiraiya slammed his fist on the table. Orochimaru is my friend, and a loyal shinobi of Konoha. He has a Fire Daimyo's blessing and mine as well. I will not have another rebellion in our own ranks. As Shikaku stared at Jiraiya, he was a smart man, and was very capable, and he was very loyal to Konoha. But he was no leader. Orochimaru was the only one they could depend on right now until this war come to an end. After the war, something can happen. Shikaku, we must end this war quickly. Tell us your plan to destroy the rebels once and for all, said Jiraiya. As Shikaku nodded as he rose up a map, as the other clan heads had cooled down after Jiraiya accepted Orochimaru's Hokage, as they started to go over the plan. As they came up with a plan to literally storm through, right in the center and crush them. That was a crazy idea, but Nagato has already destroyed all the bridge around, so they couldn't infiltrate the boy, and they had to do it quickly before Naruto arrived and attacked them. That boy had inherited all of Minato's skill and intelligence, and he led an outnumbered army, and he still managed to crush several of the Kiri Ninja swordsmen and Sakumo in combat. No, they had to hurry up and destroy the army with Nagato, because if Naruto arrived and the both of them combined, it would be catastrophic for Jiraiya. They will have to butcher the entire army. A week later, Nagato stood his entire army strong in front of a large vast river in front of them. The gigantic river was running wild, as the river was 3 sections, and they came together and joined at this spot. People have called it the Trident, the Battle of the Trident. History will remember this night when the 2 great factions fought. Even the presence of Mifune and Akeno by his side did not help. Nagato felt pressured. If only Naruto was here, but he was not. But Nagato was still furious with his friend for not being here at his side right now when they needed him. But there was nothing he could do about it. He would just have to fight. Fight with everything that he's got. At midnight, he saw the enemy ranks on the other side. Thousands of them. All of them eager to butcher all the Union soldiers. But he still had the river on his side. Let those bastards come. Konoha had finished a march that was supposed to be 3 weeks long in just one simple week. As they heard what happened to Konoha, as Akino was happy that Danzo was dead. That man, he was behind many Uzumaki's death. But the loss of Naruto's brother, as Nagato also knew that Naruto had little feelings for him, but in the end they were still blood brothers. And after Obito sacrificed his life to save Kushina, Naruto will be sad at losing his brother that way, and furious as well. They are about to attack, said Mifune, as they heard Konoha warriors rage their battle cry, as Nagato stepped forward, as thousands of soldiers charged in front of them, coming towards them. Archers, said Nagato loudly. Hundreds of Zetsu stepped forward, all of them with arrows, as Nagato waited until hundreds of ninjas lost their footing in dangerous raging water. Fire! The moon was concealed as an army of arrows rained down. Blood, gore, limbs spread everywhere as the water started to turn red with blood. Hundreds were dying in seconds as their bodies were washing down the river. Fire, he said again, seeing the second line charge. Fire, fire, fire! As he could only watch as hundreds upon hundreds of Konoha forces were butchered. They came and came again for the next 2 days, and every time they were pushed back. Mifune estimated that Konoha lost 2,500 forces and their morale will be low. Yet Nagato was worried. The river was getting peaceful and every charge the enemy forces were reaching closer and closer to the shore. As the last attack, Konoha ninjas reached the shore, but they were all cut down by the Zetsus. And also, his stock of arrows and his explosives were almost coming to a finish, as the inner rain was supplying them with arrows and explosives. But that came to a stop as the Tsuchikage and his army was near and Hanzo needed them. He needed to help Hanzo because if Hanzo fell, his rear would fall, and then they would get attacked from both sides. He needed to end this now. It was midnight and there was no moon in the sky, shrouding the land in darkness. The enemy just lost 100 more in minutes. They will be weak and licking their wounds. Morale will be at absolute lowest. We attack now, Nagato said. A surprise move. We outnumber their forces by 2,000 and they are weak. The river is calm and tomorrow morning nothing will stop the enemy from crossing it. Before they attack us, we must attack them. Is that wise? Should we wait? Akino asked hesitantly. We can't afford to wait, Akino. Our rear can collapse at any moment if Hanzo is defeated, and if that happened, we won't win this war. Akino bit her lip, but there was something strange where Konoha staged their attacks. Something was wrong, but probably she was overthinking things. And they need to strike now for real. How will we retreat? She asked. We cannot slaughter their entire army. I plan as killing as many as possible, but if it becomes too hot, we will use hellfire to light up the river. It will keep them at bay for a few days while Mifune will stay here to half our army, while I go help Hanzo with the others. Since when did you become so better at war? She teased playfully. Since my best friend abandoned me, he said angrily, as she regrets saying that now. Nagato, don't, he said. As Akino and Mifune looked at him. He's a king now, a bloody king of a kingdom that he rules. We are no longer his concern, said Nagato as he clenched his fist tight. You know that is wrong. He will never do that to us. So then where the hell is he? Said Nagato as he was pissed off. When we needed him the most, he's not here. The sadness and disappointment in Nagato's words broke her heart as she averted her eyes. He then turned towards Mifune. Can we do this? It sounds like a sound plan. And I'll be by your side all time, said Mifune, as Nagato nodded. Meanwhile, Nagato marched with half his army, as the other half would retreat through the caves when Konoha lost their great soldiers. Once that was over, his forces released the dam water, making the river uncrossable. As an added safety, he was set on fire with hellfire. That will buy him a lot of time to help Hanzo, and maybe by then Naruto would finish his trip to Kiari and come to their aid. As Nagato was pissed off, it's been a week and a couple of days and yet still, nothing. The union had to look strong and united, but he wasn't here. He looked at Akino as she was silent at his side. I'm sorry, he said. You don't have to apologize, he said. Don't worry, we will win this battle. As the both of them nodded to each other. The Zetsus were quite good at sneaking up, so he sent them ahead with Mifune. An hour later, they were given a signal to approach, as they both came with the Uzumaki, older children, as Nagato sent the younger ones back with Pakura army. What is this? Said Lady Chiyo. Nagato was surprised as he saw a completely abandoned army camp, as he went over to Mifune, who was confused as well. What's going on? There is no sign of them for miles. Zetsu army is searching everywhere, but they're nowhere to be seen. Cowards, they must have run off, said Raza. Even Baki nodded. They did suffer heavy losses, maybe they planned to retreat and organize themselves, Baki said. As Akeno knew something was wrong, she turned towards Nagato, who was pale as a ghost. Retreat. Retreat, he said. Run to the mountains. What is going on, she asked. It's a trap. It's a goddamn trap. Retreat or you will all die, he shouted. From what, she said. Soldiers are toppling over each other, running back. And that was when Akeno felt it. The ground started to shake. Earthquake, she thought. No, it was something worse. Nagato had always been the best center amongst their team. And she saw what he discovered a moment ago. Water. A monstrous wave, even larger than the river 10 times, was coming towards them. Large, the biggest tsunami she has ever seen in her life. The thing would swallow them all whole. Nagato was running with the Uzumaki children by his side. A dam, the biggest dam. Really? That will flood half of the Fire Nation as well. And flood the hidden grass, and also the hidden rain. What were they doing? Thousands would die. And their own soldiers would be caught up in this as well. Innocent people, children. What the hell were they doing? As Akeno then realized Konoha didn't care. As long as they won. This was a trap, those rules. A few days ago, they did that so Nagato could come out here. Nagato then stopped. What are you doing? She screamed. Get the army to safety now, he said. I'm not leaving you here, she screamed back. But she was grabbed as she saw the Zetsus pull her away. As she broke out of the Zetsu's hole, but Mifune grabbed her. Let me go, she said, but he held her tight. As she saw Nagato stood there, with Lady Chiyoraza and Uzumaki children by his side. Nagato, she yelled. The entire group went through a set of hand signs. I'm sorry, he whispered back. As they slammed their hand down on the ground, as they created a massive barrier that was struck heavily. As they went on their knees by the force of the barrier, the entire place was shaking as the water tried to rip through it. The barrier started to crack and not even half of their army had made it cross. As Akeno was fighting furiously until one of the Zetsu stabbed her with a dart. As she felt her strength leaving her, collapsing unconscious. For family. For duty. For honor. Yelled Nagato. Akeno saw her vision going dark. But at the last moment she saw the barrier was broken. As her childhood friend and more than a dozen of the Uzumakis and half of their army was swallowed up. Time skip at Kieri. Your mother is safe. She shall remain with us hidden until you send your people for us. Danzo is dead. For the peace of the Hidden Leaf Village. But most of all, Naruto Uzumaki, your brother Obito, and his comrade died. Known as traitors and criminals. They accepted disgrace in the name of honor and hatred in the place of love. Yet your brother died with a smile on his face, despite never getting to know you. My regards, Tsunade Senju. Konan watches Naruto slump down in the chair, crumbling the paper. Another member of his family gone. First his father and now his brother. And they both died for him in his dream, never expecting anything in return. And he never got to know the both of them. Konan came forward as she pulled him to a hug, as he collapsed in her embrace. All his life he had hated Obito and loathed him for the family he never had. But now he would do anything to have his brother back, to get to meet him, to get to know him, to protect him. He should have marched to Konoha like his heart wanted him to. But yet he went to Kieri, to make the alliance stronger, to make the union stronger. And now his brother is dead. For the past week, him and his forces had joined up with Meiterume, Guidance, as they had routed the Mizukage loyalists. There was not many, because most of them had died at Castle Storm by his own hands. And he already killed 4 of the 7 ninja swordsmen, and the others have also been killed by Kisami's hand. Now all that was left was the village of Kieri, where the Mizukage had holed himself up with his 1,000 loyalists, most of them being the Kaguya clan. Mei had already agreed to his terms by making Land of Water join the Union. He had supported them in their dire times. In return, after the Mizukage's removal, she will offer him 15,000 soldiers. She will become the next leader of their nation, and the fact that she had taken a charm to Yaiko was a good thing as well. With this new alliance, he could march back to the mainland and put an end to this as well. And finally get to see Akeno and Nagato, Kisame, and so many soldiers with him. He would finish Konoha once and for all. But he was starting to get worried because he had not received any message from Nagato or Deibatsu. Last he heard that Nagato was marching towards Sora River and Deibatsu was taking on Land of Earth and Oniki's supporters. I have to end this war before I lose more of my family, he whispered sadly. We will, said Konan. But he had to step forward in battle now. He will go and kill the Mizukage himself. Time skip. Naruto was along with Kisame and dozens of other ninjas who had accompanied him. The village was filled with a thick mist. Kisame informed them about the death of the three-tailed Jinchuriki, but the last Jinchuriki was still in the village and was completely loyal towards the Mizukage. The sixth tail, a matter of concern. But it doesn't matter who they are because Naruto Uzumaki, he will strike each and every one of them down. Because he was going to stop this war. He was going to win this war. He was the king of the north, and with Kiri's support and alliance, he will slaughter every single one of them. And then, he will get to see his friend again. He will get to see Nagato, and also Akeno. And, for the first time in his life, tell her how he truly feels about her. As he smiled, knowing that Nagato will be happy for him. But guys, if you end this episode right here, go ahead and check out the new episode of What If Naruto pushed himself to his limit, and enjoy that, guys. And stay tuned because later on I'm going to be posting a new episode of What If Naruto was raised by the Hyuga clan. So stay tuned for that and I hope you guys enjoy. And yeah, without further ado, I'm out for now. See you guys soon. Peace.